Axton, Virginia, round 5 of the American Motorcyclist Association sanctioned National Championship Motocross Series. It's a hot day here in Axton at Lake Sugar Tree. The action promises to be just as hot. Opening ceremonies just about completed. Will be National Championship Outdoor Motocross Series coming your way. 2 motos in both the 125 and 250 classes. We're in the extreme southern portion of the state of Virginia. This is Lake Sugar Tree in Axton, Virginia. It's hot here today. Take a look at the crowd. You'll see a lot of shirts off. Temperatures in the high 90s. The humidity's just about as high. It's been a little bit tough on spectators, and you can imagine what that is going to do to the riders. Now, earlier today, we broached that subject with several of them. Here's what they had to say. First, from the Suzuki pits, here's Guy Cooper.
Well, the last 2 weeks, it's been hot and humid back home, and hopefully it'll stay sunshiny and I can stay out front.
Right. Who's gonna be your main competition today?
Well, the leader in the point standings is Mike Kiedrowski. He's always tough and runs strong here at this track. And we got some new Pete guys running good, and Jeff Emig on a Yamaha is doing pretty good. The 91 Suzuki is going really strong. It's fast, and hopefully it can put me out front today.
You have to believe that in every pit, hopes like that run high. Let's go to the Kawasaki camp. 1989 champ Mike Kiedrowski.
Feeling pretty good. We just now had our practice, and the track's looking really good. It's not too muddy, it's not too dry, and I think it's going to be a good day today.
Think it's going to dry out during the day?
I think so. It's pretty hot here in Axton, and the humidity is real high and stuff, so I think that's going to dry the track out a little bit, and I think it's going to make it a little bit tougher to ride, and also the humidity against the riders and stuff. You know, a lot of them are going to be getting tired.
It's going to be a trainer's race.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, we were out there for 15 minutes, and it seemed like about a half-hour moto, so, you know, you got another 15 minutes after that, so it's going to be tough.
Great race in Michigan with the overall win there. You regained the points lead. You're looking to, again, to further your points lead here?
Yeah, you know, I'm just going to go out there and concentrate on each moto and, you know, hopefully win both motos again today. And I feel good. My Kawasaki's running really good, and everything feels good up to this point.
Thank you, Mike. And this point is the opening round of the 1991 championship event here at Lake Sugar Tree. It's round 5 of the series. The 125 class is on the line, as we told you. 2 motos to be run today in both the 125 and 250 class, and points scored individually in each of them. You combine the total of the points to determine the overall winner in each class. Downhill, right hand, off camber. That's the start. Generally, we have problems, and there are a couple of riders faltering in the middle of this one, though. No one went down. A good, clean start all the way across the board. 125 action is underway. Out front, the privateer motorcycle of Eric Kehoe, rider number 33, the veteran in this class. Right behind him comes Jeff Emig. There's Mike Kiedrowski, Jeremy McGrath. Most of the good riders are way up front, close to the front, the number 1 position, I should say, and ready to challenge for the lead. Guy Cooper back in the pack. He's going to have to work if he wants to be a contender in this one. Here's the way it looked when it flashed by our vantage point. It was Kehoe out front, followed by Emig, then Steve Lamson. Jimmy Button was hanging in there. Tyson Boland, rider number 311, was close to the front. Then Mike Kiedrowski, Brian Swink, and then came our champion, Guy Cooper. So Cooper well back in this field. What he has to watch for is this field, make sure that it does not run away from him while he's trying to pass some of the riders to put himself into contention. Meanwhile, out front, Eric Kehoe, number 33, holds down the number 1 spot. Here's action behind him. That's Jeff Emig. And Jimmy Button coming up a little on the short side. A pair of Kawasaki's moving to the outside. That's Tyson Boland, number 311. There goes Mike Kiedrowski. He passed both of them. So our running order at this point would be Eric Kehoe holding down the number 1 position, running in the number 2 slot. Rider number 29 for that Pro Circuit Peak Antifreeze team would be Steve Lamson. 3rd place, the Yamaha of Jeff Emig, and 4th place now going to, as we just saw that pass to Mike Kiedrowski, the 1989 125cc national champ. Back in 1987 on this racetrack, this Lake Sugar Tree track, rider number 33, Eric Kehoe, who was out front. There goes Kehoe being chased by Lamson. Kehoe was the overall winner in the 125 class. Now, rider number 4, Mike Kiedrowski, is pushing Emig. All kinds of company just behind Kehoe. They've started to reel the leader in. Kehoe has joined the ranks of the privateers. It's a little bit tougher on him now. A couple of years added to his age since that 87 overall win, and of course no longer on the factory bike, and that will definitely take some of the starch out of your sails. Makes it a little bit tougher to get the job done. And Kidrowski crouched to the inside and takes over the number 3 position away from Emig. And just on the back of your screen there, you just had a quick glimpse of him, was Guy Cooper, who has moved into contention. So it's Eric Kehoe out front, followed by Steve Lamson, then Mike Kidrowski, then comes Jeff Emig and Guy Cooper in that order. This moto is winding down. We're getting into the final stages of it. I don't know how much longer Kehoe is going to be able to hold on. As I started to say to you earlier, it's tough, very tough for a privateer to maintain his motorcycle, maintain the proper frame of mind, and maintain the physical conditioning. He has to do all of that himself, where the factory has help every inch of the way, so it makes it awfully tough on a privateer to score these wins on the National Championship circuit. Here comes Kidrowski moving to the inside of Lamson. Lamson, number 29, holding down the number 2 slot. Kidrowski rails around the outside. Does he get the job done? Yes. Kidrowski takes over the number 2 position. That drops Lamson back to 3rd. What action we've got in this 125 first moto at Lake Sugartree, round 5 of the AMA National Championship Series. There's your leader, number 33, Eric Kehoe. Right behind comes Mike Kidrowski. Now, Kidrowski has 2 thoughts in mind. One is the obvious. He wants to pass Kehoe to take over that number 1 spot. But second, and he has to be very careful, a former 125 champ. He's got a good line going up that uphill behind the trees. Did he make the pass? Yes, Kidrowski has taken over the number 1 position. The 1989 Kawasaki 125 national champ has taken over the lead in moto number 1. Now, we refer and have referred several times today to the fact that there are 2 motos. A moto is the motocross jargon for an individual race. One moto is the same as one race. And the riders are out here and will race 2 times in each the 125 and 250 classes. They race for 30 minutes at a time, and they are scored individually. What I mean is, you get 25 points for a win, and if you win 2 times, then you get 50 points for the day. Now Guy Cooper is challenging for the number 2 position. Cooper, another rider that has come from out of the pack, challenging Eric Kehoe to take over that number 2 slot. Cooper does not want Kidrowski to get too far in front of him. Kidrowski is the points leader, and Cooper needs all of the help he can get. He needs to stay close. He needs to gain on Kidrowski and actually needs to pass him. He's setting in the number 2 position in the point standings. Now, Kidrowski knows what's going on behind him. He takes a look over his shoulder. He can see this pair of riders, and all he wants to do is put distance between himself and that pack that is charging, moving up to his rear wheel. So it's Kidrowski, Kehoe, this rider, Guy Cooper holding down the number 3 spot. Behind Cooper comes Steve Lamson aboard the Pro Circuit Honda. Kehoe doing a masterful job, but there goes Cooper. Cooper got the drive on the inside. It looked like Kehoe maybe made some kind of a small error as his back end hit up in the air, and he had no traction there for a second, and Cooper took advantage of that situation, got the drive, and he has taken over the number 2 spot. Question is, can he catch Mike Kidrowski? Is there enough time? There's Kidrowski over the top of that jump. There's the interval. There's Guy Cooper. Kidrowski, the 1989 champion, holding a 9-point lead over Guy Cooper, the 1990 and defending Supercross champ. There's Eric Kehoe still running in that number 3 spot. You saw just a glimpse of rider number 29, Steve Lamson. He's that close in 4th. So this moto, number 1 in the 125 class, is winding down. Now, when the gate drops for an individual moto, the starter, and there's Mike Kidrowski. He's giving a big wave. He's feeling this one. We're on the last lap, incidentally, of moto number 1, and Kidrowski has relaxed the pace just slightly, waving to the spectators, and he's kind of feeling his oats here. He knows he's going to pad his lead. He takes the checkered flag and wins moto number 1. So Kidrowski is going to gain at least 3 points on Guy Cooper. You get 25 points for winning. You drop all the way down to 22 points for the number 2 position. 20 points for 3rd, 18 for 4th. For 5th place, you get 16. From that point on, it drops off 1 point at a time. We'll talk more about the structure of motocross racing when we return with action from the 250 class right after this. The action in the 125 class, simply outstanding. Coming up next, moto number 1 in the 250 class. Riders are leaving their pit areas and moving toward the start line. Who's going to be tough today? Well, to get the answer to that, we took our camera into the pits earlier and asked the competitors themselves. First, from the Yamaha camp, Damon Bradshaw.
I think Michael Rocco's going pretty good. My mechanic said he was going good, said there's a couple other riders. I think it's going to, be an interesting day. I think it's going to be who's the strongest and who's going the fastest today.
You feel very comfortable in this weather?
Yeah, I feel real comfortable. I've been training in it all week, and, and I felt really good at, at Red Bud. I was tired and everything after the race, but you're supposed to after a race like that, and I was able to hold on to it, so hopefully we're going to make it 2 in a row here.
While we were in the pits, we thought we'd swing over to the Honda camp and see what members there had to say. First up, Jean-Michel Bayle, who was leading the championship point series.
The track is perfect for me, and the weather is not so perfect, but I tried my best and tried to make a good start and tried to make some good weather today.
This whole track's tricky. They added a lot of supercross stuff. Naturally, that's kind of what everybody likes to do to please the crowd. So it's going to be a long, hot day. That's going to be the hardest part, I think, keeping that stamina up for that 40 minutes.
So Jean-Michel Bayle likes the track. He says the weather isn't too red hot. Jeff Stanton kind of agrees. Says it's going to be tough. And there's a man that's putting a little water down to keep the dust away. And he knows that. He just kind of wandered underneath that spray. Here's a look at some of the competition in this 250cc class. Rider number 6, that's Mike LaRocco on a Suzuki. Next to him, number 8, that'll be Jean-Michel Bayle. Number 7 is Jeff Matasevich on a Kawasaki. Number 1, Jeff Stanton, our defending champion. Rider number 14, that's Mike Fisher aboard a KTM. Number 3, former national champ, is Jeff Ward. Rider number 11 there was Bradshaw. 15, Doug Dubach. Rider number 10 is Larry Ward. And on down the line as the rest of the field sets themselves for the drop of the gate in this 250 class. The leader, Jean-Michel Bayle, he's ahead of Jeff Stanton, a defending champ, and Damon Bradshaw, who's holding down the 3rd spot. They head toward corner number 1, that tricky off-camber corner, and we've got riders down. One of the problems with the right-hand corner on the start is the brake is on the right-hand side. The riders have got their foot down on the ground, dragging it often, and they can't get it up in time to hit that brake to stop their momentum. And that could have been what caused that melee in corner number 1 in this one. In any event, all of the riders are up. We're underway. Moto number 1 is into the first lap. The riders starting to sort themselves out. And Jeff Ward has sorted himself out the best as he takes the lead early in Moto number 1. Jeff Ward, a former 250cc national champ. He's tough. I don't care what kind of a track you're on, any place in the country, Ward can get the job done. Behind him comes our defending champ, Jeff Stanton. There's Jean-Michel Bayle. Jeff Matasevich, rider number 7, a teammate aboard the Kawasaki of Jeff Ward. Up over the top of that big Dunlop tire jump, and Jeff Ward shows the field the short way around this racetrack. Headed toward on lap number 1, the back part of the Lake Sugar Tree facility. Ward gets off balance, and Ward behind the bushes. There Ward comes out without his motorcycle. Ward got sideways coming off the top of that jump, and as he disappeared behind the trees from camera range, he apparently jumped off his motorcycle. In any event, Ward is out of contention in Moto number 1. That gives Jeff Stanton the lead, our defending champ. Here comes Stanton out of Sherwood, Michigan, and right behind him, the rider that is leading the 250cc National Championship Series in 1991. That's the Frenchman, Jean-Michel Bayle. The 2 riders are Honda teammates, and already this year, Bayle has captured the Supercross crown, and Stanton wants to ensure that that's the only one that Bayle takes home in 1991. Back to France, I should say. Former world champion Jean-Michel Bayle has won world titles in both the 125 and 250 class. There goes Bayle to the outside of Stanton. He's looking for running room. He wants the lead early in Moto number 1. Stanton, though, gets back on the gas and through that vicious set of whoop-de-doos. Holds on to the number 1 spot. He has the inside line as they pass the finish line for the first time today. Now to the inside goes Jean-Michel Bayle. It looked like Stanton had moved over to try to take the line away from Bayle, but Bayle just squared it off, came underneath, and he took over the number 1 spot. So it's Jean-Michel Bayle, the leader, followed by Jeff Stanton in the number 2 position. These riders are less than a bike length apart. They disappeared behind the trees. They emerged, and Bayle still holds down the lead with just about a bike length. Let's make that 2 bike lengths through another rough set of whoop-de-doos over teammate and defending 250 national champ Jeff Stanton. Now, this is still in the early going of Moto number 1. These riders have to be careful because of the heat and humidity that they do not burn themselves out. Now, back off the pace just slightly. Here's the battle for the number 2 position. Bradshaw, number 11, takes it away from Matasevich, rider number 7. The Yamaha and the Kawasaki going at it for 3rd place, and Bradshaw comes out on top in that one. So the running order is Jean-Michel Bayle holding down the lead, followed by Jeff Stanton. Running back in the number 3 position is Damon Bradshaw. In 4th place would be Jeff Matasevich. Pasovich. Now, not to belabor the point, but it does bear repeating. It's hot and it is humid out here today, and it's going to take its toll before the day is over. These riders have to be careful they do not burn themselves out. There's a look at Jeff Ward, our early leader. What a break for him, a bad break. Let's go back and take a look at the action that led to his giving up that #1 spot. Look at this. Ward just loses it, gets sideways, and a parts company from the motorcycle behind that big tree. Ward is all right. He's up and running again, but out of contention. Here comes Stanton pounding right back at the leader in this. It's Jean-Michel Bayle out front. It's Stanton in second. They were side by side. Stanton tried to make a pass. Now Stanton switches lines. He goes to the inside. Is he going to get the job done? He takes over the #1 spot. Can he hold it? He does. Jeff Stanton has regained the lead in moto #1. In the championship standings, 12 points separate these two riders. There's a quick look at a lap rider looking over his shoulder at all of the commotion and noise behind him as Jean-Michel Bayle now tries to come back on the inside. Stanton just grabbed a handful of throttle and held Bayle off. I started to say that just 12 points separating these two riders in the championship standings, and the difference is one moto in Sacramento, California at round 2. The conditions there were deplorable. Here's a look at Damon Bradshaw still holding down the #3 position with his Yamaha. Rider #11 out of Charlotte, North Carolina, 18 years of age, back to the battle for the #1 spot. It's still Stanton in the lead with Jean-Michel Bayle running second. I started to talk about the deplorable conditions in the second round of the series at Sacramento, California. And here comes Bayle, and Jean-Michel Bayle, the series points leader, has regained the lead. Bayle, for the second time today, moves in front of Jeff Stanton. This battle is unbelievable under the worst of conditions in terms of heat. Let's go back and take another look. The heat and humidity. Here's what it looked like. Jean-Michel Bayle just moved to the inside of Jeff Stanton. That's going to give him an outside position here around this corner, but he squirts in front of Stanton before they get to that corner, to that big tree they had to go around, and that gave him the advantage, and Bayle has taken over the #1 spot. Now, again, I started to talk about that second round of motocross action in California. It was so rainy, so muddy, conditions were so bad that they only ran one moto that day. A good number of the riders, as we watch Damon Bradshaw in third, and here comes Mike LaRocco, #6 on the Suzuki in fourth. A number of riders were unable to finish that moto. The conditions were so bad. Among them, Jeff Stanton, Mike LaRocco, Damon Bradshaw. This man, though, Jean-Michel Bayle, rider #8, was not among them. He finished in the #2 position for the day, so he had 22 points to his credit, while the rest of the riders had 0, and that has really affected the scorekeeping, as heading into this Lake Sugar Tree event, in the earlier rounds, the 4 rounds preceding it, Jeff Stanton had won overall honors twice, Damon Bradshaw once, and John Dowd of Privateer winning the overall honors at Sacramento in that mud fest. So with moto #1 in the 250 class winding down, Jean-Michel Bayle is the leader. There's a look at Bayle as he's headed toward the finish line. He's followed by Jeff Stanton. Stanton holding down the #2 position. Bradshaw is running third. Mike LaRocco fourth. One more corner. There's the checkered flag. And Bayle wins it. Arm up in the air. We'll see Stanton coming around to take second place. Here's Stanton on that last lap. Stanton just kind of shut himself down off the pace. No need to rush. It would take a monumental error on the part of Jean-Michel Bayle for Stanton to have done any better than second. There's Bradshaw coming around to take the checkered flag. He'll finish third overall. Behind him will be rider #6, Mike LaRocco. Now still to come, second motos in both the 125 and 250 class here at Lake Sugar Tree. Stay with us. We'll be right back with that action. National Championship Motocross, and there is still a lot more exciting action to come. But before we get to it, let's go inside motocross with retired champion Bob Hurricane Hanna.
Hello, I'm Bob Hanna, and welcome to another edition of Inside Motocross. Today we're going to talk to some of the younger guys fighting it out for the national championship and see just what it takes to make it to the nationals.
So could you guys give me a little insight on how you first got interested in racing motocross?
Yeah, I had some friends that raced around locally, and then my dad got my brother a bike, and then he started for about a year, and then he got another bike, and I rode that one for a while, and then been racing ever since.
Well, it all began when I was about 3 years old. My dad threw me on a motorcycle with training wheels, and I raced around the house and around the lot next to us, and Then he worked me on into a Mr. 50, and then I moved up to an 80 about 1978 and began racing local races. And since then, I just, I rode amateur all the way till 87, and then turned professional in 88.
My first interest in racing was when I was young. I was riding with my dad up in the hills all the time, and all of our friends rode, and they decided to start racing. I was a couple years younger, me and my brother, and I just decided, I told my dad, I said, I want to race. Let's see what I can do racing. So I went up there with all my trail riding stuff, and went out there and did pretty good, and never missed a weekend since. Been out there ever since racing.
And when was your first local break in your racing?
Probably a couple years after I started racing. I was up to 80 expert. Kawasaki dealer approached me and said, he'd like to help me with some bikes and a little bit of parts, and so I could travel around the Northwest and do good. And that lasted for about 4 years till 87, and they helped me out really good. If you just work with your dealer and stuff, they really want to help you out. If you just promote them good, they'll be good to you.
I had a local Honda dealer around us that was interested. His boy rode, and he saw me riding and decided he wanted to give me some help, and it just happened.
How about your first shop you rode for? Was it, I hear it was your father's shop?
Yeah, and well, I rode motorcycles. I raced them for a couple years, and then in 1980 he bought a motorcycle shop. It was a Yamaha shop.
And when did you first get your first big support ride?
In 88, Honda offered me a support ride. I got some parts and a bike, and I rode the entire season. And then at the end of that year, Suzuki Alexander talked to me, and I got a couple bikes and a few parts that lasted me the year, and I've been riding Suzuki ever since.
I rode for Honda for 2 years until the budget cut deal. And then I've been riding Suzuki ever since.
And how's that contingency program help you?
Suzuki contingency is it's real well, and they pay a lot of money, and that definitely helps.
Well, in 88, when I was done racing a little bit of pro races, Suzuki's Pat Alexander had come to me, and he said, well, you look real good, and we're really interested in having you on our team, and we'd like to support you, and that's what happened. And, they have race reports every week, and they watch your performances, and if you look good, they're really interested, and then you get a support ride. Had a great support ride with Suzuki, and in 88 I won the Supercross championship in 125, and it was excellent the whole time.
Do you feel you have a long career ahead of you now?
Yeah, I have. The word I use is revamping. I'm getting ready to make a serious charge back to the top position and try to get where I want to be in the 125 Nationals.
I feel I'm just beginning. This is my first full season of pro. I raced a few races last year, and hopefully I'm just beginning and someday be a national champion.
In my career, I'm just basically starting. I rode a few nationals last year and got a national number, and now I'm going to try to do all the nationals and see what I can do, and it's really helped a lot with Suzuki's contingency program, so that I'm able to get enough money. I have checks coming in the mail that I kind of bank them. I know they're going to be there when I go home, and I can get to the next race.
All right, thanks a lot.
It takes a lot of talent to make it to the top in motocross, but it also takes support. Talk to your local dealer and find out about the programs that could help you become the best of the best. I'm Bob Hanna, and we'll see you next time inside Motocross.
I will thank Bob Hanna and Suzuki for that inside look at motocross. We'll be back with more exciting motocross action right after this. There are some enjoying just a little cool-off in the lake here at Lake Sugar Tree. We've had a temporary halt in the action. Here's Roy Jansen to explain.
Problem's been related to the heat. It's unbearable out here today. The humidity is very high. I assume it's probably close to 100 degrees. We've had 2 riders go down with heat stroke, and they have occupied both the doctor and the ambulances. We had a problem with turnaround on one ambulance because of what started as a dislocated shoulder and turned into a collapsed lung. There's a delay at the hospital. The key here is to be overly cautious in this heat. We feel that it's okay to get underway. We've cautioned the riders about getting lots of liquids in there, and we think we'll be okay the rest of the afternoon.
Well, according to the rules of the American Motorcyclist Association, there must be a pair of ambulances and a qualified doctor on hand before they start any event. And fortunately, for the most part, the doctor and the ambulances are not used. We're happy about that. They are there, though, as a precautionary measure, insurance, if you will. In any event, the ambulances are back from taking the folks that were struck with the heat problems to the hospital, and we're underway with moto number 2 in the 125 class. Steve Lamson on the outside, it's Emig on the inside, and a couple of riders down in corner number 1. They're up. They'll get their motorcycles running and back into action, but they'll be out of contention. Here it is, Jeff Emig. He's holding down the number 1 position. Right behind him, Denny Stevenson. On the outside, far right of your screen was Mike Kidrowski. Here comes Steve Lamson, rider number 29, working his way through the fray. Also in contention, number 84 was Ty Wallace. Guy Cooper, rider number 1, is up front. Doug Henry, winner of the 125 class at that Sacramento Mudfest earlier this year, rider number 31. He's close to the front, running back about 7th or 8th position. Meanwhile, Jeff Emig shows the rest of the field the short way around this Axton track in moto number 2. Now, don't forget, the riders have already put about 40 minutes of hard riding into this racetrack. They did that earlier in moto number 1. I told you the motos were 30 minutes long, but what happens is at the end of the 30 minutes, the referee or starter holds up a signboard that gives them a big numeral 2. Actually, the races are 30 minutes plus 2 laps. When the 30-minute time frame is over, they still have to run 2 more laps, and that determines the overall winner for that particular moto. There's Guy Cooper moving up through the pack, rider number 1. Cooper finished in the number 2 position in moto number 1. He would like to win this one, then he would be given the... Let's take a look at the lead battle. Denny Stevenson, a little bump and shove there. Stevenson, rider number 23 aboard the Suzuki, and Emig, rider number 18 on that white Yamaha. The pair of riders side by side as they went over the top of that big jump. Looks like there might have been a little bit of contact. Emig falls back off the pace as Stevenson takes over the lead. Stevenson in the number 1 position. There's Kidrowski. He's watching all that action from 3rd. Let's run down the running order. Out front, it's Denny Stevenson on the Suzuki. 2nd place is Jeff Emig. There's Emig, number 18 on the Yamaha. 3rd is the Kawasaki of Mike Kidrowski. 4th, the Honda of Steve Lamson. And 5th place is our defending champ, Guy Cooper. Crossing the finish line, but there's still a long way to go in this one, is Stevenson, followed by Emig. And now they'll splash down through the mechanic signal area. There are a couple of the mechanics, in fact, passing signals on to their riders. They do it via a chalkboard. Each time around, they tell the rider what position he's in, how many seconds he is behind, or through their coded signals, they might tell him how much longer to go in the race. They give him messages, inspirational messages, if you will, as much as they possibly can to try to bolster the spirits of the riders if they're running behind the pack, and, of course, to encourage them to hold on to that number 1 position if they should be out in front, as Denny Stevenson is at this time. Of course, to be able to see those signals, the rider has to take his eye off the track and glance to the right or left, depending on where the signal board might be located. I don't think I'd want to do that, but then again, I don't think that I'm qualified to be out on that racetrack in the first place. The riders seem to have no trouble. In any event, it's a system that has been around for years and years, and one that works very, very well. Stevenson out front. Here's the battle for the number 2 position between Jeff Emig, holding down 2nd. He's aboard the white Yamaha, number 18. Right behind him on that green Kawasaki, rider number 4 is Mike Kidrowski. Kidrowski, as we have told you several times, the 1989 125 national champ, and he's the winner of moto number 1 here at Lake Sugar Tree. We're into moto number 2, the second of the 2 motos, to determine who will be the Lake Sugar Tree champion and who will walk out of here with the points. Kidrowski goes to the inside. Emig slammed the door for a second, but Kidrowski just kept the gas on, and Kidrowski persevered. He takes over the number 2 position. So now it's Stevenson, followed by Kidrowski. There was Stevenson. There's Kidrowski. There's Emig. They're that close for the first 3 positions, or in the first 3 positions, I should say. This long triple jump in front of the spectators, that's where you see a lot of aerial antics going on during the course of a race, but not when the competition is this tight. And certainly not when the race has a long way to go like this one. We saw the blue flag being waved. Now, that was given to a lapped rider, a rider that's about to be lapped, and it tells that rider, and you can see him move over there. He was just to the right of all the race action, but it tells that rider to look out behind you because here comes the front runners. You're about to be lapped, and the rider is under no obligation to move off the track, but he is not allowed to race with those that are coming up behind him. Should just kind of hold his position and let the pass be made. Here's the battle. Look at this. Kiedrowski almost put the trap, almost caught Denny Stevenson in a trap with one of the lap riders. He tried to force Stevenson to get behind that lap rider, and with nowhere else to go, Kiedrowski could have made the pass. Stevenson, though, moved over and took the line away from Kiedrowski. Denny Stevenson out front, and Stevenson almost makes a mistake. He bobbled. He almost lost it in that rough section of the racetrack here at Lake Sugar Tree. Denny Stevenson, Omaha, Nebraska, number 23 on a Suzuki out front. Kiedrowski running second, and Kiedrowski looking for some kind of a line to get around Stevenson. Stevenson has been able to slam the door each time Kiedrowski challenges. Heat is going to be a factor, and it's going to make them tired, and Kiedrowski has taken over the number 1 position. He did it in moto number 1. He waited, he was patient, and he did it again in moto number 2. Kiedrowski looking for a double win out here today. Kiedrowski followed now by Stevenson, and running back in the number 3 position is Emig. There's Emig cresting the top of that jump. Now Jeff Emig is holding down the number 2 position. Right behind him is Guy Cooper running in the number 3 position. When we left you a few moments ago, it was Denny Stevenson in second, but Stevenson is out of the picture, out of contention here in moto number 2. It's Emig instead holding down the number 2 slot, followed by Cooper. Cooper finished, you'll recall, in the number 2 position in moto number 1. He took that spot, and look at there, he did it again. I was about to say he took that spot in the closing corners, the closing lap in the first moto, and he duplicated that feat in moto number 2. Kiedrowski knows he has this one in the bag. Here's the checkered flag, and Kiedrowski will pad his points lead today in this 125cc class. The former champion is looking to get that title back in 1991. Across the line comes the rest of the field. It was Guy Cooper in the number 2 position. Kiedrowski and Cooper going 1-2 in both motos. Holding down the number 3 spot was Jeff Emig, rider number 18, and Emig, as a matter of fact, finishing 3rd in both motos. And if we look behind Emig, we'll see number 29. He finished 4th in both motos. That was Steve Lamson. Meanwhile, the 250 class has moved to the starting line. They're set to go for the start of their second moto here at Lake Sugar Tree, round 5 of the National Championship competition. The gate is dropped, and they are underway down that long straightaway, taking that right-hand corner off camber, and you can see the riders dabbing. They don't know whether to get their foot onto the ground or whether they want to grab for the brake pedal. Getting the whole shot, rider number 8, Jean-Michel Bale. Right behind him came Damon Bradshaw. Then Todd DeHoop, rider number 32, and a host of others. Jeff Stanton was fairly close to the front there. Rider number 1, Jeff Matasevich. Number 7 was up close. Larry Brooks was in the middle of that one. Number 230 aboard the Kawasaki. Rider number 10, Larry Ward. We got a lot of good riders that are close to the front on this one. The competition should be good. And Jean-Michel Bale bobbles. Bale bobbled coming around that corner, and that was the break that Bradshaw was looking for. The mistake, I should say, as Bale provided the opportunity for Bradshaw to make an uncontested pass there. Bradshaw just took advantage of the mistake and railed around the outside of Bale and said, "Goodbye, son. You can't be making mistakes like that in national championship competition." So Bradshaw out of Charlotte, North Carolina, aboard the Yamaha, takes command of moto number 2 here in the early going. Now running in the number 2 position is still Jean-Michel Bale, but Jeff Stanton is right there ready to pounce and ready to challenge. But I rather doubt that Bale is going to make another mistake like that. Stanton is going to have to work for it if he wants to take over the number 2 position in this one. Damon Bradshaw, one of the young lions in this motocross circuit, comes out of Charlotte, North Carolina. As I've mentioned, he's just 18 years old. Very aggressive rider. That aggressiveness has, in fact, when you couple it with his desire to become a national champion, it has gotten him into some trouble both on and off the track on several occasions. Bradshaw's favorite saying, though, is, "Hey, they don't send me no Christmas cards. I do what I got to do to win the race." And he does it very, very well. Has a huge legion of fans that he has picked up in the United States. They love this brash youngster, this cocky riding style and the aggressiveness. There's Jean-Michel Bale still holding down a number 2 position. That's Jeff Stanton right behind him. That was a quick look at the interval between the front-running Bradshaw and those riders that are picking up the pace now slightly behind Bradshaw, holding down 2nd and 3rd, that being Bradshaw, or that being rather Bale and Jeff Stanton. Right now, though, Bradshaw is having it his own way on this Lake Sugar Tree track. Comes around that corner, casts a quick look over his shoulder to see if he can see where the competition is. That's one thing you'll very seldom see Bradshaw doing, and that's looking around for the other riders. Bradshaw believes in riding your own race, riding your own lines around the racetrack, and Bradshaw gets a little bit sideways. sideways, and manages to square it up. And there Bale goes down. Bale goes down, and Stanton has taken over the number 2 spot. Bale just slid out of that slippery corner, or that loose dirt, rather, just prior to the Dunlop jump, and Stanton took over the number 2 position. Bale drops to 3rd. Jeff Motacevich swung into line in the number 4 spot. Still out in front, though, is Damon Bradshaw. Now, when you make a move like Stanton was just able to do, take advantage of a fallen rider, take advantage of any kind of a mistake, sometimes, and it's working right now, it gets the adrenaline flowing. The guy says, hey, I just picked up 1 rider. I'm going to pick off 1 more if I can just get on the gas a little bit more. I'll let it hang out just a little bit extra. So Stanton has started to close the gap on Damon Bradshaw. Now, the danger for Bradshaw here is he has put himself into a rut. He's been riding the same pace over and over again, and Stanton made the pass. Over and over again, I mean by a lap after lap. Bradshaw had taken the same lines, had gone the same speed, and it's hard to adjust that when a rider comes up behind you. And Stanton was able to take advantage of the fact that he was moving just a little bit faster, and before Bradshaw knew what happened, he was by him. Now Bradshaw has picked up the pace. He's doing what he can to get back into the hunt for the number 1 position in Moto number 2, but Stanton is slamming the door at every juncture. It's Jeff Stanton out front, followed by Damon Bradshaw in 2nd. Holding down the number 3 position, Jean-Michel Bale. Bale right now out of this one, but don't count the Frenchman out of contention at all. He is that close. Behind him comes Jeff Motacevich. Stanton continues to hold down the number 1 spot, and he's trying to put a little bit of distance between himself and the riders behind him. Now, Bradshaw is being challenged by Bale, but that's what I was talking about just a few seconds ago. Bradshaw's not letting that bother him. He's still riding his own lines. And now he moves to the inside of Stanton, and he takes over the number 1 position. Can he hold it? Yes. Damon Bradshaw with an excellent move late in the going of Moto number 2 in this 250 class. He was the early leader. Stanton goes to the inside, and Stanton, for the 2nd time today, takes over the number 1 position. And I believe that Jean-Michel Bale had a crack at passing Bradshaw also. I just started to say that Bale was running in the number 3 position, and Bale did not get the job done. Bradshaw is able to hold on to that number 2 spot. When Stanton went by Bradshaw, Bradshaw got sideways, and it looked like Bale was set to pounce, but instead, and there's a white flag signifying 1 lap to go, instead, Bradshaw must have gotten right back on the gas to hold on and to take control, or keep control, I should say, of the number 2 position in this one. Now, in the final stages of any moto, where it's hot, where it's humid, and when the going is really tough, you've got to take your hat off and give the edge, the advantage, to Jeff Stanton. He probably, well, I don't think probably is the right word, I think certainly is one of the 2 top conditioned athletes on the pro circuit today. He and Jeff Ward are acknowledged to be the masters of riding in heat and riding in rough conditions and riding where it's humid. They are able to withstand the temperatures and the humidity more so than any other riders. And like I say, when it gets tough, when the going really gets down and nasty, you've got to look out for Jeff Stanton. That's the way it's been all day today. High humidity, extreme high humidity, and temperatures that are approaching 100 degrees. And Stanton just now starting to rip this racetrack apart and leave the competition in his wake. Stanton looks like he's riding lap number 1. Looks like he just had a shower, as a matter of fact, and he's coming out here as fresh as he possibly could be. Instead, he is being pressured, well, not so much now. I think on this last lap that we're looking at Damon Bradshaw, who has checked behind him, and he's more than happy to accept that 2nd position. He knows that unless Stanton makes some kind of a mistake, a monumental error, there's no way that he's going to be able to make the pass. So Bradshaw is going to salvage what he can get. He'll take 2nd place in this 2nd moto and hand the win to Jeff Stanton. I shouldn't say hand, because Stanton, believe me, has earned every inch of real estate that he has traversed here on this track today. Over the long triple jump, spectator side of the racetrack for the final time today. This is the last rough section of whoop-de-doos, and Stanton will make a right-hand turn as he threads his way through traffic and headed toward the checkered flag. Stanton takes the checkers. He'll win Moto number 2, and Stanton will take the overall win for the day here at Lake Sugar Tree.